This is my first talk for any fish group, so I hope it's not terrible. I've, like he said, I've known about this since July. I got started on this about 2 weeks ago. So I put some cool stuff in it, but hope you enjoy it. All right. So hey Akron, I'm really excited that this is my first fish club to do a talk with, because there's so much cool stuff in Akron, and it's like a bigger club, so it's one that, I don't know, I'm glad I got to start with this one. So my talk is what about Bettas, my misunderstood spearfish. But before we talk about Bettas, what about Bull Show Bob? That's me. So I've been a member of the Youngstown Area Tropical Fish Society since like 2008, 2007. I've been in there for a while, but I'm actually going into my 4th year as the Bull Show chairman of our club. So it's really awesome position to have. I like doing it. So that's how I kind of got dubbed Bull Show Bob. And yeah. So here's the deets about me. I'm 36. I'm from Niles, Ohio, which is like 7 light years that way, down Route 76. I like sushi, Italian food, using my turn signal, and alternative music. My 3 dogs and my fish. Wait for it. Oh, there they are. Ben's my pit bull on the right, Tinkerbell's my toy fox, she's on the left, and Toby's my Chihuahua Jack Russell in the middle. They have heard this talk about 3 times a day for the past 2 weeks. I put them on the couch and I've been doing this in front of them. And my turnoffs include eating healthy, driving the speed limit in the fast lane, and that person on The Price is Right that bids $1 over someone else's bid. Hate it, drives me nuts. So, and like he said, I did join your club here at Akron in July. And then I don't want you to think I just kind of ran away and never showed my face back here again. But I really did. I ran away and I never came back here again. Because I'm the videographer for our marching band. I'm kidding, that's coming up. I'm also in Yakvis. And I told them that I would send a hello to you guys from our club. So, hello from Yakvis.
Where's Goomans?
Goomans were off that day. Yeah. But like I said, I'm the videographer for our marching band. So August we have our band camp, and then band nights, and then football games. But we won 2 football games this year, so no playoffs for us. So I'm back into the fish keeping for the year. That's our marching band, and I was Red Dragons. So on with the presentation. There's what about Bettas? What about Bettas? Yeah. My misunderstood spearfish. I love a Betta. It was my first fish when I was 9 years old. Me and my grandmother went to a pet shop in Niles. It was called Prestigious Pets. And that's where I got my first Betta. I named him Elmo. I was 8. So that was my first Betta. This isn't him. This guy, he's actually back there right now. This is the 2nd place winner of your very own Akron Ultra Aqua 2017. He was the 2nd place winner, so I was really excited about that. He made it tonight. Back there. But I love Bettas because they're so easy to keep, but they're so hard. Because there's things that people don't necessarily know about them that they should do, or they're so easy to breed, but they're just so a pain in the butt to breed. They really are. So hopefully I cover everything. What are we going to talk about? Everything Bettas. So if you guys have any questions, don't wait until the end. Ask me like as I'm on the slide. Because I don't want you guys to forget, or I'll forget, or you'll be on your way home, and then what good's it going to do then? So everything Bettas. That's one of my Bettas at home. I have about 160 Bettas at home. I just thought I'd save the room and not bring them home tonight, so. I only have a Fiesta. So we're going to talk about everything Bettas. So with everything Bettas, there's shopping for your Betta and providing the right home for your Betta. And what is the right home for your Betta?
Perfect.
You got the cup. I mean, in a talk about Bettas, it's bound to come up. So is this too small? I put it in there kind of to be funny and sarcastic, But it's really not, because if you go to Walmart or PetSmart or any pet shop, that's what you see on the shelf. There's all these Bettas and all these cups. And I hate it. Like, I wish they were in tanks, but I get it. Because if I owned a pet shop, I'd probably do the same thing. I would keep them in cups. Because they have needs. They're not just like neon tetras or angels where you throw 50 of them in a tank and then the next week when they're starting to run out, you just throw more in. These things will be done by the end of your shift. So they're not good in a cup. And then people see them like when they don't do their homework and they think, well, I can put it in a vase, that's bigger. But it's really not, because the temperature of the water, that much water, the temperature is going to change a lot in a short time. So that's kind of not good for the betta either. I mean, you wouldn't, your angelfish come in a fish bag, you're not going to throw a potato sack on the wall. There's my fish tank, look at it, you know. But then you have the people that they see this and they think, I'm going to rescue my betta. I bought him at Walmart, I'm going to rescue him. And I'm going to donate my entire year's salary to keeping this betta and give him everything. Then you end up with this. Is this too big for your betta? This is too big for your betta. 40 million gallons is too big. And those tank mates are not compatible. He's going to shred that whale shark. So he's not good. More reasonably, a 75-gallon to a 90-gallon tank, I still think is too big for a betta. They don't need that much room. They don't like it. In their little minds, they're thinking, I'm in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean and it's all blue and I'm vulnerable. So they're probably going to end up hiding behind your filter or behind the heater up at the top. They're not going to swim and be like happy betta. Plus the filtration to filter it, the fins are going to be like a parachute and it's just going to blow them all around the tank. When they scurry across the bottom, they're going to look like salmon that are running up the stream. So what is the perfect tank, in my opinion? I really like this one. This is a cool tank. This is a 10-gallon tank, and it literally has everything your betta needs. It's got the sponge filter in the side, so he's got some circulation, he's got some filtration going, he's got some cool plants to hide, and like, they go up to the top and lay like this, he can rest in them and just stick his head out and get a breath of air. He's got a skull, that's awesome because he's a badass. So, I mean, that's a really good tank, and it has the heater on the back. And he's by himself. Kids love this. If you have kids you want to get into the hobby, this is perfect. They can design it their own way. And they'll do tricks for them. They'll learn to swim through hoops, and they'll jump and get the little granules off their fingers. It's awesome. So a 10-gallon tank, they're never going to outgrow it, ever. So it's just, that's the perfect tank for a little betta. That's the perfect size. So there's lots of different color bettas. And I put these in here because I wanted to show it's not just the cut of the tail. It's not all about just the spade tail, the crown tail, the half moon, the deltas. The coloration of the tails, that can determine, like, these have the betta genes, or the butterfly genes in them. So that's because if you look at the tail, it's got like the swag to it that kind of goes around. It looks like a butterfly. Now these, it's white. It doesn't have to be white. It can be clear. It can be any other color. It's just most commonly white. But I like these. So those are two butterfly gene carrying bettas. These are some really cool ones too. These are butterflies also. The ones on the right, the Betta splendens, he's got the black. So it just shows it's not always the white. The one on the left isn't a Betta splendens, it's actually a placat. Have any of you kept placats? Yeah? How'd it go? Did you keep them by themselves?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're more aggressive. They're more aggressive than Betta splendens. They're actually the most closely related to wild splendens, is the cat there. And a lot of the designer things that we see in splendens, they came from the placat, like the kois. The koi genes came from this. Also the dragon scales, if you've seen those, that's kind of from the placats too, because over in Thailand and like Vietnam and stuff, where they fight them on the regular, on the street corners, they groom them to have thicker scales so that when they're fighting, when they're in battle, it's not so much hurting them. And then it's not bothering them, they can keep shredding the fins of the other one. So that's where the dragon scales kind of come from. They just make it more cosmetic instead of harder and better for battle. So those are more butterfly gene carrying bettas.
Are all these yours?
The one on the right's not. The one on the left was. Yeah.
I noticed that even, any short fins I ever had, like they drop out of the regular, they'd show up in the regular,
Yeah.
the long fin. There seems to be an extra aggression gene hooked to that short fin,
Yeah.
because they were evil compared to.
Oh, they are. These are the ones that even if you keep them by themselves, they're going to be the betta that comes up and is following your finger and being more interactive.
I always wondered if the short fin makes them more maneuverable, so maybe that's why.
It kind of does, yeah.
Get around better and do more damage.
They don't get
It
tired out
does.
quick.
The veil tails, I mean, obviously makes more drag in the water, and it's just,
Plugging all their excess fin.
that's why they're aggressive, but if you put them with tetras, they're going to nip their fins, and they're not going to be the aggressor there. So there's some butterfly genes. And there's koi genes. These are really awesome too. And the gist with the koi genes is when you look in a koi pond and you see all these koi, that's what you're supposed to see when you look at the side of the betta. So you end up with these. These are really cool bettas. Something that they do when they show them, like for the IBC, it's technically would disqualify them, but if you have a perfect betta, but with imperfect fins, they'll take them and then they'll take a razor and they'll kind of edge the fins off to make it a perfect 180-degree angle. Or like when they're selling one aquabid, then you get them home and then about a week later when they start to heal, you'll see the fins aren't that perfect, but he's still a gorgeous fish. But these are koi genes in the placats.
Does that work like marble? Do they continue to change as they mature?
Sometimes they do, yeah, yeah.
That's the USA bed right there. Red, white, and blue.
That one actually, I do own the one on the left, and it actually took first place in our red, white, and blue contest at the Friatfest for July. So,
Where'd you I wanted to say, one time I was on the internet and you could actually go to Aquabed and you could see a lot of those.
yeah,
You make a total price of everything on there.
Yeah.
As far as anything of those kinds.
a
If
lot.
anyone wanted to spend money like that.
A lot,
Yeah, you could go.
yeah. I do it, when I get a lot from overseas, I do a lot of eBaying, and I do them when they're already here in the States. Because I don't know if anybody's really had to deal with a transshipper before, but it's the most awful thing ever. Linda Olson. So,
How does that work?
um,
I mean, how does that work? I've never bought anything.
they have a license so that they can receive the imports in the country. So you pay like $20 to have it shipped on top of like the $30 or $40 you've already paid for the betta. It comes in and then all they do is open it, they receive it, they open it up, check it, it's fine. Then you gotta pay another $20 to have it shipped to your house. Because you can't take something that's technically from another country straight to your house. So that's how that works.
So that's what she charges? About 20
Yeah,
bucks?
usually a flat rate, but it's so hard. And then she'll sometimes jack it up because the vetting to look at it and determine it's fine, it can go. Yeah. It's good to go. So these are the koi genes and the veil tails. Now this is really cool. I put these in here because this is a pair that I have at home. If you go to the pet shop and you buy a red male veil tail and you buy a female red veil tail and you spawn them, you're not gonna get all red veil tails. They're gonna throw everything. You're gonna get emerald greens and blues and all different colors. The reason is because most of them come from like seagrass, commercial breeders like that, where it's like, it's not bad quality, but the genes are watered down. And they've just got a lot in them. So it's kind of interesting to see what you'll get, but you're gonna get a lot of everything. Versus these. These were imports and they were specifically bred for this look. I don't know if you know Jonathan Straczynski. He's a friend of mine. He's from northern Ashtabula County-ish. He's been breeding, I think, 11 generations of convicts. He likes convicts, so he's got albino marbled convicts that he's been working on. Just like those, these have been bred and pulled for this. So if these were to spawn, they're probably gonna throw koi babies that are gonna carry the orange, black, and white. So these were specifically bred for that. So, and I don't keep these with anything else. I keep them separate, and then I only breed them with each other. Haven't spawned them yet. But it's neat when you buy the pet shop ones and try to see what you're gonna get. So, these are some cool ones. That's the, a rose tail on the bottom. There's the, a koi veil at the top. What happened? There's a koi at the top, a veil tail. They're pretty neat. The gist with the kois, or the rose tails, is that their fins are supposed to look like a rose. They're kind of ruffled and frilled. So that's kind of what they're fooling for with those. And don't forget the girls, because the girls are just as pretty nowadays. I remember when I got into the hobby and I first saw the females and they were all brown. That was literally the color. Every single female was just brown. If you were lucky, they had some red or blue in the tails. So, I mean, it's blue. That's a big step for them. The one on the right's obviously not one. The one on the left is. The one on the right's a crown tail female. You can see because she has the rays that kind of hanging off her fins. So she's a crown tail. And she's actually in pretty good breeding size too. She's round and she's full of eggs. So those are the females. This is another female I have. She's back there also. This one they would consider to be a marbled female because she's got the solid body color, and then the fins are solid color too. They're red. And just to be two-tone like that, they kind of generally just call them marbled females. Males are found that way too. And this is really awesome too. These are two females. So the one on the left is a koi female. The one on the right is a female placat. Now if you buy these at an auction or get like a bulk bag of them on Aquabit or something, they're gonna look very similar. The way that I tell the difference is there's the gap between the tail and the dorsal fin.
There's a pointer on that, Ron.
What's that?
There's a pointer on your remote, you push down the middle button.
No way. So there's this gap right here. That's in the placats. The female bettas don't really have that. It's like the dorsal fin almost runs into this. So that's kind of how you tell the difference. The placats are more heavily bodied though, and they're longer. Even when they're younger though, they're gonna look the same. Yeah.
You have females together?
I don't. I keep them on. It's so stressful. I've tried the sorority tanks. I have some pictures of that coming up too.
We only have a 2 sorority team.
Sometimes it's one of those things that it'll work until it doesn't. That's what it is. It's just, there's a lot of things with the bettas. It'll work until it doesn't. So that's one of them. But these are really awesome females. If you can't tell, you can always just stick them together, and then in an hour, the only one surviving is your placat. So if it doesn't work out, that's what you can do. If nothing else works. Okay. Betta and Bellis. I have 2 of these back there. I have a pair. I don't have these ones, but I actually have their offspring back there too. That's your female. Now the thing with Betta and Bellis is this is what you're gonna get. It's not like there's different varieties of fins, colors. It's kind of like your Grommies. Blue Grommies look like blue Grommies. Betta and Bellis look like, oh, they look like Betta and Bellis. So that's your female. She's pretty standard. The males are obviously a lot more colorful when they grow up. There's one. They look pretty splendid-like, but they're not. They're actually very peaceful too. You can keep them all together. I would separate them and put them together when you're breeding them, but they're pretty fun bettas to have. They're kind of aggressive. You're gonna have your flaring, your chasing and fin nipping, but definitely not as bad as splendens. Also, they stay kind of small. The ones I have back there are teeny tiny. So you have to watch what you put them with, because other things will pick on them a little bit. That's Betta and Bellis. And we have wild splendens. It's hard to find some wild splendens, but here's your run-of-the-mill wild female. She's kind of brown. This is, when I was younger, this is all you could find in the pet shops for females. I mean, it's crazy how they are now, like with the colors. Obviously, they don't have the long fins as the males. That's mostly because when you breed them, if they did, the genes to give them the long long fins combined with that of the males, the kids are gonna be like a genetic mess. Their fins are gonna be so long. So the short fins, it kind of balances it out. So you have the male with all the long fins combined with the short fin genes, it makes it work. If you breed a long fin female with a male, you're probably gonna end up culling a whole lot of them. If they don't cull themselves naturally as they go along. And then here's your wild male splendens. They look a little different too, compared to how they've gone now. Okay, so how do I create these beautiful fish? How do I breed these? Have any of you tried to breed them? Yeah, did it work?
No success.
Yeah, you got some out of it?
Oh, yeah, lots of them.
Lots of them?
But that's probably been about 20 years ago.
Yeah,
What,
It took me a few tries.
a few tries. It's tricky. So, or is it? When two fish fall in love, a stork brings them a bubble nest. And that's it. If only it were that easy. First things first, we need the right bachelorette. So this is a sorority tank I had. These are some females to pick from. Of these, I would probably go with this one or this one. Because they're kind of round, they're full of eggs. They have good body size too, and their fins are good too. The sorority tanks, I've tried it. I'm not a fan. I'm over it and I keep my females separate now. I love a Cory cat. I love Cory cats. And I used to always keep them with my Cory cats. And it's all fun and games until one night you're feeding them shrimp pellets, and then here comes a green laser Cory cat coming out, and he's missing an eye. And then I've heard a lot of people keep them with guppies, so I've tried keeping them with platies, because I figured these things are bigger, that'll be fine. And that's all fun until a week, 2 weeks into the game, your platies are hanging around up behind the heater shimmying, because they're so stressed out they've got ick. And then you can keep them by themselves, that works, but there's always gonna be like the one in order that doesn't get to eat, or that doesn't even get to go up for air, so every time she goes out, they chase her and she's hiding. So I just keep by themselves, but I would breed one of these two out of this spiel. Okay. What makes a good female? Good size. She's got to be of a good size. You don't want her to be too old. If she's too old, she's not going to want to spawn. Your male's going to want to, and he's going to kill her. And it goes the same way with the male, too. If he's too old and she's in her prime, he's not going to want to spawn, and she's going to kill him. You want her to eat well, have good fins, not too long. Again, like I said, you don't want her to have extremely long fins because you don't want those to get passed into the fry. An invisible egg tube, which is right here. That's the little egg tube. This is extremely important, and it's probably more important in bettas than in any other fish, because they're not like angelfish or any other cichlid where you just throw them in a tank, they grow up, they pair up, and then they spawn. They don't see each other in the wild, that's why. So if she comes along and that's not there, he's ready to spawn, she's not, he's gonna kill her. So the visible egg tube is definitely important. What makes a good male? Same thing, you don't want him to be undersized. Generally, when I spawn them, you want them to be within the first year to year and a half. They're ready to breed, do it then, because it's just, you're gonna have the best luck. You don't want him to be too young, because he obviously has to know what he's doing. If he sees a female, he's probably gonna try to kill her if he's too young. So, not too old, but not too young. Try to get in that year mark. Good appetite, good fins. breeding is very turbulent. It's very turbulent. When these things are done, they're gonna look like they just came out of a blender. It's gonna be rough. So you want them to go into the game in their prime. So that's the male we're gonna use. And it's so funny because for a fish that's so tricky to breed, they try to make it so easy. This one's got a bubble nest. They do it in their sleep. They always breed these bubble nests. They make them. And it's like nobody ever sees blue grommies in a tank and they have bubble nests everywhere. That never happens. It's always the bettas. And sometimes I'm a jerk. I'll go around and I'll stir up my tanks just to make them mad, and then they have to rebuild it. But they make their bubble nests so often. So that's our male, and that's our female. That's the happy couple, but they're really not happy. They actually hate their guts. They do. They just want to tear each other's face off. They're just going to do this and get it over with. So that's the pair that we would spawn. So what do I need to make this happen? Do I need wine, flowers, candy, puppies? What makes this happen? There is a list. A 2.5 gallon tank. I brought one. I brought one so we could do a hands-on little spiel on how to breed these things here. So, a 2.5 gallon tank. I like this tank and I think that it's great for breeding them because you've got the surface area. There's going to be a lot of interaction, a lot of putting your hands in or putting the nets in. It's not going to take much to disrupt that bubble nest up there. So a 2.5 gallon tank is fine, or even better. Where's our BAPF? Wayne? Cover your ears. And where's our president and vice? Cover your ears too. You could also use a 10 gallon tank, and that would be even more ideal because you could put a nice divider in the middle like this, and you could set up a male over here and another male over here. Because if you're breeding for BAP-SAP, there's a little loophole in the BAP-SAP rules that I've found. I use it to my advantage in Youngstown all the time. I'll use that as an example. Our specifications for breeding is 10 fry, 60 days old. 10 fry, 60 days old, and you turn them in. If it's something hard or like on a target list, sometimes you have to write a report, but turn that in. But that's it. It does not say that all 10 fry have to come from the same parents. And you're probably going to lose a lot of babies, a lot of them. So if you take the 10 gallon tank and divide it and make sure that they can't see each other, because when they're up there doing that little anabanted embrace, if he sees the male over here, he's going to stop, he's going to go flare at him, and it's all going to be shot. So you can use that loophole to help you. And I get why it's there, because there's some Gadiads that only spawn, like they only spit off like a baby a day. So I feel like that's kind of why it's there, but you can use that to help you. A heater is important. You want to keep the water at about 74, 76 degrees. That's where I spawn mine at. I've never really had a problem with pH though. I just kind of use this when I do my water changes. A candle hurricane. I don't know if I have that labeled right, but you want one of these. You got your hole at the bottom and your hole at the top, and it's nice and round and clear so they can see each other through this. Styrofoam cup, bubble wrap, plastic wrap, and some Scotch tape because we're going to do some arts and crafts. You're going to take your cup and you're going to cut it in half just like this, and then you can leave the bottom in or you can cut it out too. It doesn't really matter. That's what you want, this. And then you're going to take the tape and you're going to make it like anchored to the side. So this is our breeding setup. The breeding setup. There's our cup right there. There's a sponge filter in this tank too. You don't have to use a sponge filter. I don't use any kind of filtration for this process at all. Heater, bare bottom tank, because obviously when they're embracing and she's spitting off the eggs, they're going to go to the bottom, and you want him to be able to find the eggs. You don't want to lose any eggs because there's sand or gravel at the bottom. So There's a sponge filter back there, you don't have to use it, but keep your heater. The cup's right here, and see there's like a pocket of air. He's gonna know to put a bubble nest underneath there. That's gonna entice him to do it, and he's gonna know, and he's just gonna readily do it. There's plants in this tank, you don't have to have plants in here though. I don't when I do it, I just, bare minimum. This is our female. Now she is inside one of these, inside the tank. She's inside of there, so if your cup is over here, like this, you want to put this at the other corner opposite of that. Now this is a perfect picture of your female in the little hurricane. She's nice and round, she's full of eggs. If you look down here, there's her egg tube, it's already extended. And she's got these little nicks in her. Those are breeding stripes. They get these when they're ready to spawn. Some of them get them more, and you can see them better than others, but they typically get these. Now, if you get stripes that go from the eye to the tail like this, and she's losing her color, you need to abort mission and get her out, because it's not working and she's stressed out. And if you release her, he's gonna kill her. So, vertical's good, horizontal's bad. While you're doing this and she's in there, there's gonna be a lot of flaring too. There's gonna be a whole lot of flaring. It's gonna be different though. Different than if you have two males like side by side, like back there, like how they're doing. It's gonna be a little bit different than that. It's gonna be more like, look at my beautiful fins, look at everything, it's so wonderful. And then she's gonna do the same, or she might just, whatever, put her dorsal fin up or something, but there's gonna be a lot of flaring. While she's in here, that's gonna happen. That's your bubble nest. They love that cup, and they're gonna put it right underneath it. And it's helpful because this, see, it's gonna make like a breaker. So if there's any disruptions, that cup's kinda gonna hold it together. Or bubble wrap, if you wanna use bubble wrap, put it up there, keep it to the side so it just floats. He'll go underneath it, in between the little air pockets, and he'll, in the grid, he'll put his nest up there. But he's gonna build a crazy, cause it's like they know, like, I think this one's for real, I'm gonna spawn, I gotta make a big one. And they just do it. So, at this point, that's the bubble nest. At this point, you want to let the female out. She's gonna go with the male, they're gonna flare side by side. He's gonna do some of this, kind of hitting her, a lot of like kind of aggression, but not. And then she's gonna end up going under the bubble nest willingly. She's gonna go right underneath it. Flaring.
How many eggs could the average female produce?
A lot. A couple
Over
hundred.
500?
About,
Oh,
yeah.
that's quite a few.
Yeah, it is. But you're gonna lose a lot. You're gonna lose a lot of them. You'll see that too. So once she's underneath the bubble nest, we're gonna have the anabantid embrace, and I love this. I think it's so cool to look at. It's so cool. The male goes up there to the female, and she goes upside down. He wraps around her. I have another picture too. He wraps around her, and then she starts to expel the eggs. As she's doing that, he'll come around, and then he'll catch them in his mouth before they hit the bottom usually, pick them back up and spit them up into the bubble nest. She'll stay there, and then he'll come back up and they'll just do it again. Typically for me, this happens in the mornings. So if I set them up in the evening, I'll usually release the female from this thing in the morning, and then it happens. For some reason, they like it in the morning. So. Eggs will start to fall. I think this is so cool, especially when they're two different colors. It looks like they're two different kinds of fish, doesn't it? Love it. He's got some tears. I have one back there already. He's pretty shredded. He just spawned. So they look a little rough after. So this is a cool picture. This is our female up here. She's upside down still. This is our male, that's his head down there. He was this way around her. She started releasing the eggs, which are right there, all those little tiny white dots. That's how tiny they are. They're so stinking tiny, aren't they? They're so tiny. And he's going down there, he fertilizes them, he's catching them. And he'll put them right back up in that bubble nest, and then he'll do it again. He'll go on for a couple times. This is a spawning that I did. I used a styrofoam bowl. I used that up there, and they spawned underneath that. So he's going to put all those little eggs back up in there. At this point, you need to take the female out. Get her out of there. Because he's going to try to keep her away from all of this to guard the eggs and the fry when they hatch. Or she's going to try to spawn again, and he will, and he'll demolish all of this and restart. And then that might not be successful. So he's up there guarding the eggs. He's doing a great job. Get her out. Put her in a hospital tank. She served her purpose. Just let her relax. He's watching the eggs now. In about usually 2 days, maybe 3. It depends on how warm the temperature of the water is, because of course that'll speed things up. Or if it's colder water, it'll kind of slow it down. So I usually keep mine about 76. That'll usually get them to hatch in about 2 to 3 days. I'm putting them up in the nest and watching them. Male will watch the eggs and fry. Look at how tiny they are. These are our fry. And they're smaller than his eye. They're so stinking cute. At this point, you can get your male out of there. He's served his purpose too. You have your fry, they're good. Just get them out. Or get your male out. Put him in a hospital tank. Give him your kid for a 10-gallon tank. Just let him go be a fish. He spawned. Now you have your fry. We need to focus on these things now. So I forgot to mention, but as you're breeding these things, I typically take a mason jar or a big jar, and I will put that in my front window. By the time this is happening, I'll have a lot of green water. I'll have a lot of green water. So obviously they have their egg sacs that they're going to be chewing on and like, getting their nutrition from, basically. So when that runs out, they're going to be looking for food, but they're so tiny, what are they going to eat? I use a turkey baster, and I just turkey baster the green water, and I just squirt it in there over the babies, and they'll just swarm around that. And that's where they get a lot of their nutrition. And as they get a little bigger, you can feed them microworms, and then kind of increase it to bigger foods. So those are so tiny, aren't they? And they have a lot of them. Okay, you're going to stay in a holding pattern for about a week. Just keep doing what you're doing. But this is super important. Again, you want to feed them the green water and the microworms. Wrap the tank in plastic. It sounds kind of absurd, but is that what you guys did when you spawned these?
No, we keep our, at the time, we heat the whole fish room,
Yeah,
and we keep that between 78 and 80 degrees constant.
yeah.
And we didn't have any problem with temperature changes or anything.
I wrap my tanks in plastic when I get fry, because right now they're still getting their air from the water, but that labyrinth organ is going to be developing very shortly, if it hasn't already started. So you need to wrap the tank in plastic that they're in. If you have a heat lamp, I have a turtle in my fish room, and I steal his heat lamp and I put it on there. Because now you're not so much heating the temperature of the water, but you're heating the temperature above the water, in that gap between the saran wrap and the water. Because what happens is, when they go up there for that first breath of air, once it's finally developed, if it's too cold, they're gonna die like that. They're literally just gonna die. And even if they make it through that and they get to be a couple of months, you'll see them when they go to swim. They won't swim like this. They'll swim like this really, really fast in like still moving water. It's because we've messed up their swim bladder because of the cold air temperature at the surface. So that's really got to be like really warm, and so it doesn't shock them when they breathe.
And we always have lids on all of our tanks also.
Yeah.
That maintains the temperature.
I always use the saran wrap because that's so important. Like 90% of the fry are lost in a spawn because the surface temperature is too cold. So pretty soon, we're gonna end up with these little guys. There's so many. There's so many. I love it. And at this point, you can start feeding them bigger foods. I would keep with the microworms, but I mean, if they're big enough to take little tiny black worms or minced or anything, use some of those. You want to keep the proteins going in them. And then my favorite part that I love is when they pop. I call it popping. Has anybody ever heard of popping? Probably not, because it's just a term that I made up. But it's when they pop, and it's the cutest freaking thing in the world. Popping is when your angelfish, they go from being that little tiny head with the little wormy tail into like a C-shaped fish. It's when like your severums go from being a little tiny tadpole-looking itty-bitty thing to a circle, or like your electric blue macaras start to turn green or blue. Popping is when bettas, it's that morning when you wake up, you go to bed and they look like this, and you wake up and you run down your fish room and you have these swimming around. And that's stinking cute. I love them. Who doesn't want to go breed these things now that they see these little babies? Isn't that adorable?
Yeah.
That's what you get. And then what you can do technically, you keep them together. What I have done, and actually a buddy of mine, Joe Doyle actually, he's done this too. You can keep them together. If you don't separate them, they're going to establish a pecking order. So there's going to be your dominant one, and then he's obviously going to pick on the weaker ones. So if you're breeding for finnage, or you want to have perfect fins and perfectly like conditioned bettas, I would separate them. But you can keep them like this if you try to get them into a bigger tank together. And if you do separate them, not longer than 15 minutes, because if you do, once you get them put back in, it's like they forget the pecking order and it's kill mode again. So that's how we breed the bettas. Thank you. I have a lot back there we can all look at. There's so many. There's 45 of them.
Do you have that many yellow tanks?
No, what I do is I take the little metal stands for like the 30-gallon longs, and I put these tanks, I line them up across it all the way down, just like this. And I decorate them, I put cool stuff in there for them. And then I take strip lights like that and I just put it over top of them. And they get their heater. They don't get a filter though, because I just do a lot of water changes. Any more questions?
Come on. When you did the Bellas,
Yes.
did you have to tinker with their water conditions, or they?
Not so much. I did use a lot of Indian almond leaves. I had a lot of those in there. I feel like the tannins kind of help them.
I always heard the wild species were
Yeah.
a little iffier.
And if you don't want to use the cup, it's so funny because they're hard, but they literally come with everything you need to breed. You could take the little cup that your female comes in, put that in your tank. It'll float. She can be in there. Use the lid that's on it, anchor that in the corner, and he'll put his nest up underneath that. So for a fish that's so hard, they make it so easy. It's just still a pain in the butt.
How many times, when you first start breeding, when you first started to breed them, how many times did you actually get a successful breed?
I
About how many
wasted like
times?
5 spawns first. It took a while.
Oh,
Because I wasn't getting that you have to wrap the tank, and I could get the fry. That was happening easily.
Oh.
And then it's as soon as they spawn, and you take them out, and then they die. The thing with the male, he'll guard the eggs too. He's a good dad. The problem is he's too good, so when they start to wiggle and kind of swim around, he'll still catch them, and he'll put them up in the bubble nest, even though they've outgrown it. I've had that happen a lot too.
Could you speak to some of the live foods you feed?
Mainly I do, typically for spawning them, I do like the brine shrimp. I also feed flower beetles. Have any of you heard of flower beetles? And it's so easy, and you just never run out of them, because what I do is I go buy usually a package or two of flour, and I put it in a Rubbermaid shoebox. Put it in my basement and forget about it for like a year. Just leave it there. I mean, you can go down and kind of like run like a comb through it to break it up. After that year, you're gonna get little tiny bugs in there, and that's your flower beetles. And it's okay because they can't fly, they can't climb the side, so they're gonna be stuck in this thing forever. And then I just take like a little net or a spork, and I scoop them out, and I sift them in my net, and I just dump them in there, and my males love them. Females do too, it's good protein. You get so many in there though, there's so many, so I kind of like, some days I'll feed a lot of like little larvae to them, and then other days I feed a lot of adults to them, because I just have so many. And then I feed granulated, like processed foods too.
What do you do with all the babies? You get like 500 out of
Yeah.
a spawn.
Have you seen that table back there? The problem is I get attached. In Youngstown, when I turn fry in, I always bid till I get them back because I get attached. So I hate to let them go because you put so much work into them, and then they have their own personalities too. So that's what happens.
I mean, you must sell them to somebody after a while.
No, not really. I usually keep them. Some of them die off, but like I usually try to keep them on. I have a lot of things.
How many do you have right now?
How many Bettas?
Yeah.
About 160.
Same one.
Yeah. I have a lot of females that do stay with other females because they're both shy and timid, so it just kind of works. So there's like 2 per tank there, and that's it. Or I'll do like a 10-gallon tank with multiple divides in it, and then that's my males. Or 20 longs and 29 is what perfect for that too.
Could you speak to, like, are you involved with any other like international Betta clubs or anything like international or just Betta?
No, I'm
Is
not
there
that fancy. No.
Or how did you get some of these strains, and talk about maybe your connection with overseas?
I have a connection with the overseas. I do. I started off on eBay, and then I was buying a lot of Bettas on eBay, like a whole lot. And this one guy that I was buying from, he messaged me and he said, "You have a lot of Bettas." His name is Sonny True, and he's from North Carolina. He lives with his dad. His family lives in the Philippines. So they take these Bettas, they catch wild ones, they spawn them over there, they send them over here. Him and his dad spawn them, and then they send them all over the United States. He was actually going to come and do a talk for us in Youngstown, but he couldn't make it. But he's one of my breeders that I use. And then there's auctioneers on like Facebook that do some too. And those are gorgeous. I don't know if any of you have seen those on the Betta blogs. Yeah. But there's lots of them.
Anything else? Well, let's give the man a nice round of applause. First off, you did very good.
Big. Oh, wait, you know what?